By now, most of you are aware that the Ledger has decided to go the way of Coinbase, gold and silver, Bitcoin and Monero. I've talked about this time and time again, the four assets that I believe are going to be the future, but the Ledger decided to throw a wrench in the system with a new firmware update, a new policy, and a new procedure that goes against decentralized peer-to-peer, which is what crypto was founded on. And really the whole reason it has value, if it's not decentralized peer-to-peer, it's not worth having. So today in operation, the future of hardware wallets, I'm going to talk about what the best options are if you have a ledger, and I'm going to talk about what you can do for the best hardware wallets moving forward. Let's get into the video. So am I running for the hills and burning all my ledgers? Well, no, not exactly, but there is a few things you need to know because Ledger made a fundamental mistake, the same mistake that Coinbase made. You see, it's hard to believe now because Coinbase has gone all corporate, crypto, government, yes man, whatever you need, Mr. Government. But there was a time where Coinbase was actually a good exchange. I know, it's insane to think about. And even to this day, if you have an institutional account, you have some flexibility on Coinbase. I have a ton of clients who have institutional accounts, business accounts on Coinbase in their ghost businesses, and it works great. I do the same thing personally, but when you have crypto, the best way to hold that crypto is to self-custody, not your keys, not your crypto. You've probably heard the saying many, many times, but it's really becoming an issue right now as we speak because of what Ledger did. Now, if you don't do the firmware update, they're not able to do the procedure. Now, you might be asking, what is this procedure? Well, basically, they're splitting the keys between 3 different corporations, and then it'll be recoverable, and it's to help you make sure that you're not an idiot and can recover your keys. The problem with that is it gets spread around that anybody who has access, it's not yours. And the government came in and stated that Ledger, and Ledger has admitted this, will turn over your crypto if subpoenaed. The government has been making lists of people who end up as creditors. Now you might be thinking, well, I'm not a creditor to any of these crypto exchanges. You might be, because if you did KYC and the exchange goes bankrupt, as many of them are, then you become public record because you had money in that exchange. And the government is forcing this hand because they can make a list who has crypto, and then they can dig into that person's finances and try to make a trail. It's not legal. I never said it was legal. It's not legal in the US. It's not legal in most places in Europe. It's not legal. Well, Canada's a gray area. But frankly, this is happening all across the Western world right now because of everyone is wise to the fact that you need to self-custody. So if you don't do the new firmware update, does this happen on your ledger? No, it actually doesn't. Am I running for the hills with the ledgers? No, I'm not. But am I going to phase out Ledger? Yes, I am. Ledger's still a simple hardware wallet to use, and moving forward, we're going to be making some changes. I'm going to make a dedicated tier list video. I'm going to update my tier list video because a lot has changed in hardware wallets. I've tried probably 30 of them over the last year. Personally, I get companies reaching out to me every single day with new hardware wallets. A lot of them are garbage, but some of them are really, really good. Now, if you're looking for something right now, today, well, the Trezor is still a great option, and I still use that. But there are better options depending. But keep in mind, the more technological understanding that you have about these things, the better off you're going to be. So that will be helpful moving forward. Now, I talk about this. Bitcoin, Monero, gold, and silver are the 4 fundamental assets for me. You know, we're running up against the debt ceiling. Whether it's raised or not, that doesn't matter because the fact is the monetary system, the reserve currency, the dollar is in serious trouble. We've never had this debt to GDP since the fall of the Roman Empire, and it's going to crumble. But there's a lot of interesting things that are going to happen. A lot of people are asking me, well, should I even stay in crypto or should I just do gold and silver? The problem is, depending upon, if you don't have very much money, if you've got 10 grand to your name. Well, then you can have 5 pieces of gold and you've covered your net worth. So that's a simple thing. But if you've got substantial funds, crypto, the beautiful thing about that is you can move it. I mean, on this, I could have $1 on here or $1 billion on here, and it's the exact same. That's the beautiful thing. $1 in gold is like a little flake, but $1 billion in gold is a truckload. It's not something you can carry in your backpack. So you need to understand the fundamental dynamics of this. Same thing with cash. 10 grand in cash, not very much money. It's just a little stack. 100 grand in cash, we're getting a little bit bigger. Million in cash, you've seen all the mob movies. It's a briefcase, right? 2 million, 5 million, right? And as these things grow, your life savings, everything you're worth, it becomes a fundamental issue. Also, there's a lot of travel restrictions on cash. Airplanes, flights, you have to declare your money. That's a problem. On here, you don't have to do any of that. So the beautiful thing about crypto, and I feel that crypto and precious metals work in perfect harmony. The only thing that's not is the communities like the butt heads. One likes to talk bad about the other likes to talk bad about the other. But the reality is, you can go, and I have a lot of people in my Ghost program who do this, going in and out of crypto and precious metals, circumventing currency. I've got tons of clients in Europe, for example, that don't hardly use their currency because they don't need to between precious metals and between crypto. Same thing in the US and Canada and all these places. Legally, you're able to do this, right? That's why I structure these ghost businesses. But if you have everything self-custodied, you become your own bank. Well, when Ledger decides to go against the grain and act like they're doing it for the people, but really what they're doing is they're becoming part of this government system that is scared to death of digital currencies, and they understand what digital currencies are and where they're going. They are finally starting to realize that they missed the boat. They can't control it. They can't stop it. Now, I've said this for years. They can't stop the digital currencies, but they can try to control the people. They can try to make laws where it's illegal for you to have it. And they don't even have to make laws. Have you guys been following what's happening with gun regulations in the United States? On May 31st, if you've got a pistol brace, you're a felon. You're a felon, and it's not even technically a law. The ATF circumvented and made their own rule similar to an executive order. It's not law. But the fact is they're treating it as if, and that's the problem we have with modern governments. I'm seeing this a lot with clients in Germany and Belgium and the UK. It's insane. Canada, obviously, Australia and New Zealand, parts of Asia. I'm seeing this across the board. Poland, France, Italy, this keeps happening where they're circumventing actual law for a rule or a regulation or something that they concoct in their mind. So moving to self-custody is vital, but understanding that self-custody tool, and whenever you're dealing with a device that can and will connect, let's say, to an internet to do an update. So am I updating the firmware on my ledgers? No. Am I still using them? Some currently in the short term, but years down the road, if I don't update the firmware, it's going to become a problem. So I have an exit strategy, big picture, from Ledger, and Ledger is going to be phased out. And it's sad because Ledger has been an incredible hardware wallet. But the problem is they broke the trust of the community. Also, Ledger with their closed source firmware. And this keeps happening. This is why I'm such a proponent of open source. So you look at Trezor and some of these other ones. Whenever you give a closed source company a chance, this keeps happening. We've seen it with Coinbase as well. Now we've seen it with Ledger, and we've seen it with so many other companies that are closed source, but we give them a bone. We say, okay, we trust you a little bit. You've done the right thing. But then they get big enough, and they turn on the people who made them. And then they're shocked when they lose everything. And, I mean, it's just insane. Look at what Bud Light just did. I'm not a beer drinker. I don't drink any of this garbage. But the reality is they've alienated their entire audience. Carhartt was this close to alienating their entire audience because they don't understand who they're pandering to. And unfortunately, Ledger fell in that government wave of pandering to the people, and this is where we ended up, and it's very, very unfortunate because up until now, Ledger was an incredible tool. Now, I don't know anybody personally at Ledger anymore. I did know somebody who was fairly high up in the company, but they have since quit because they saw the culture starting to go the way that they didn't like. They went on to another startup that's doing better. Usually when these companies go this way, I can talk to people in the company because I know a lot of people in companies in privacy space, whether it's the owners or the CEOs or vice presidents or whatever. But right now, Believe it or not, PrivacyX doesn't even have any contacts anymore at Ledger because a lot of their best people are leaving and they're seeing that they're going the way of the Coinbase, right? I used to know some really high up people in Coinbase. All the good people have already left. Now it's just a corporate, publicly traded crappy company that sucks. But because they have a big footprint and because they're going to be around, they've become kind of that too big to fail. They've become the Chase Bank of the crypto world. And that's kind of where we are. And that's unfortunate, and you can use those big things to your advantage, but you don't want to get sucked in by it. So in the short term, that's what I would recommend. In the long term, I'm going to be doing an updated tier list video on this. I've been asked hundreds and hundreds of questions on this over the last week, and so I thought I would talk about my opinion on this. Do you need to burn your ledger? No, you don't. And having it on a ledger is still safer than having it on any exchange as of now, provided you haven't updated the firmware. Also, if you have an older ledger that's older than like 6 months old, you're actually in a pretty good spot for probably the next few years. Would I keep it on there for a few years? I wouldn't. I would look at upgrading, but it's not something you need to go dump a bunch of money in, especially if it's not in your budget to go buy one right now. It's really not that big of a deal, but long term it's gonna be. And switching out your crypto. Also, it's the aspect of it, right? It comes back to this age-old, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, why would you care? You don't want to live in a world where you have a government that spends 100% of their time looking for if you did something wrong, all of a sudden, maybe we can find something. Because frankly, everyone breaks the law every single day, and when they decide to enforce a certain thing. You have the right to privacy, and it's ironic that in the US they're fighting about the right to privacy. Now, they're not talking about privacy the way that PrivacyX does, but they're talking about the right to privacy on other issues, and you have a fundamental right to privacy, and quite frankly, it's your life. Take it into your hands. Why are you making these people your gods? Tell them to kick rocks and live life on your terms. That's why we do what we do at PrivacyX, to give people their freedom and their life back, as opposed to living in this archaic totalitarian system. And it doesn't matter what country you live in, they're all the exact same at this point. So that's my take on this. Crypto is, Bitcoin is going to be the currency of the future, whether I like it or not. I'm not the biggest Bitcoin fan as far as fundamentally, technologically. I like what it stands for. But it will be the future of the currency of the future. Monero takes your freedom and your privacy back. And gold and silver are legit money. On silver, you've got that industrial side. And then with gold, you have the one money that has, gold has never failed. Gold is undefeated. The only reason we don't still use gold to this day and haven't used it for thousands of years is because governments keep trying to introduce these crappy fiat currencies that fail time and time again. And what do we do every single time when they fail? We go running right back to gold every single time. Gold is undefeated. Gold has never turned its back on us. Gold has never failed us. We've failed gold again and again and again. And then silver could be money as well. And then with the industrial front and with the technological advances we're making, silver is going to become more and more viable. And silver is obviously one of the most suppressed commodities on earth, in my opinion. But that's my take on these things. I still stand strong on my 4 asset classes. The stock market is completely and utterly rigged in the United States, in my opinion, and I don't recommend you put $1 in that piece of crap because you're just going to get wiped out eventually. Some people say, well, I have a 401k or a retirement plan. Okay, great. But big picture, the core of your money, putting into that. If you already own real estate, that's one thing, but getting into the investment market, obviously that's getting wiped out right now. And so looking at, higher end like annuities and bonds and T-bills, things like that, you can make a lot of money in that. There's a lot of money on that side of the paper market if that's your thing. But the stock side, you are going to get crushed. So make sure if you're investing, in my opinion, you invest however you want, but make sure if you're investing, you look at the bond and annuity side as opposed to the general stock market, because the general stock market is going to get destroyed here with the current recession we're getting ready to plow right into, and this is the fundamental issue. Now, obviously, this recession is going to be good for most online businesses, most people who are running companies, most people who are, honestly, it's sad because who's the recession going to crush? It's going to crush brick and mortar middle class workers. That's who it's going to crush, unfortunately. And you're going to see a lot of that get destroyed, similar to what we saw happen in 2020. So preparing yourself now, and you know it's an issue when these big billion-dollar CEOs are coming out and saying, prepare yourself. I mean, even Jeff Bezos was talking about how you're probably better off putting money in the bank as opposed to buying the next TV. It's in his benefit for you to buy the next thing on Amazon, but he's even saying this stuff because they see the writing on the wall. Jamie Dimon, these are people who I'm not a big fan of personally, but even they're telling the people, hey man, maybe you better brace for impact because obviously we're gonna have a hard landing. It's gonna hit really, really hard. And you need to prepare for that. And it's, you know it's something when these people who it's in their best interest to not tell you this are telling you this. So, looking at crypto, in my opinion, is fundamental and vital moving forward because it's going to be the thing that holds people together. It's going to be the thing that allows you to be free as opposed to these CBDCs, which are failing across the board, by the way. These CBDCs keep failing like I said they would, and these CBDCs are actually now officially, about to be officially illegal in 7 states in the United States. So go USA, right? And so the reality is we're seeing a resurgence of gold and silver, which gold and silver is now officially legal tender in 4 states in the US, which is cool. CBDCs are illegal in 7, which is cool. So it just shows that while there is a lot of doom and gloom, and I get it, and there's a lot of bad things out there, there is also some positive things. So hold on to the positive and create a life for you that's private, secure, free, anonymous, and off the grid. Because I'll tell you, it's a pretty good life. I can tell you from experience, and it's going to give you the ability to do pretty much whatever you want to do and, be able to come out of this ridiculous recession unscathed or with as few bumps and bruises as possible. Anyway, I digress on that. That's my take on the Ledger. I'm going to be making an upgraded tier list video on the best privacy tools and the best crypto wallets because I think those are 2 things that I need to update. I still stand by what I've said in the past, but there's been a few fundamental changes, and I'll be the first to say when something falls apart, we just pivot and find the next best thing. And it's always unfortunate when you see companies go to the wayside like this, but that's part of business. The industry will come back stronger than ever, and we will keep rocking. Really appreciate you guys checking out this video. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. Have an amazing day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Whoa!